this video I'll be showing cutting out a piece of the quarter panel and welding in a new piece basically into a Bondo filled quarter panel. Ignore the square cutout, that was just for taking a piece to match the paint. I'm cutting out a piece of quarter panel. They actually sell this piece to replace it with, and of course come to find out is also it does have a bit of rust that's right above the wheel well. More from what I can see from the inside, it's been actually wrecked or crunched in or something. The Bondo thins out as it gets right there where I got to weld to, so that'll be good. What I've done here is I just used a I call them a ziz wheel, a cutoff wheel, this here tool, and just cut a nice even straight line across to there and cut it out. The replacement piece did not come with the cutout for the light, so, and luckily the metal's really good in there, so I don't have to worry about that, but I'll just have to cut around it and recut my piece to match. And then the bottom, what I'm doing is I'm grinding out all the little spot welds down through there, releasing it from the inner side, and I'll do that all the way from the wheel well and then pull it out, and then we'll come into the putting in the new piece and welding it in, and we'll get to that when I get there. Okay, that is metal. That's what's not metal. It's all Bondo. I mean, that's, you know, this is a prime example of people that shouldn't be doing body work. We got a license plate. You can see this is a license plate. This is some other piece of painted shiny, or maybe it's a piece of plastic. You know, it's just been gobs of crap stuck in there just to fix the rust. Instead of welding any kind of metal, even if you couldn't get a patch panel, I mean, you just weld some metal in there. This is just a prime example of retardation. People that don't need to be doing body work. So anyways, this is going to be a heck of a mess to clean up. I mean, I have to grind all that stuff out, find out what's still metal so I can weld the new patch piece back into, because I'll probably have to end up putting pieces of metal in this section here around for the wheel well, because I've still got some metal here. I just went ahead and cut out the quarter panel so I could get to it easier. But there should be probably some metal. If it still seems to still be metal there, so I'll have to grind it, and then I'll have to drill holes in the new patch piece in these areas here all the way down on the bottom. And then that's what I'll be doing, what I'm going to be calling plug welding. You'll spill, it's kind of like spot welding the metal to other metal through a hole. So that's called plug welding. We'll get into all that when I get to that point. But just wanted to show this awesome job of retardation of body work. Okay, I have gotten rid of the rest of this metal that come around here. You know, part of the quarter panel. Now I'm down to actually now having to rebuild this part. This comes from the trunk, this metal here, and bends over and makes the inside of the quarter panel. This piece has not only been wrecked, but it was rusted out as well, so I'm going to have to build the metal that comes down through here in order for the quarter panel, patch panel, to be able to spot weld to. And as you can see, it's just ever slightly bent in. I've already kind of tapped out the hammer a little bit, so it should be pretty easy to straighten, but I'll have to get in by with a board or something, knock it on out, and then start building. A lot of work to do before you can even put a patch panel in. This is going fairly well. I've got a tool, and I'll show you here in a minute, that actually pushes an edge to it. So what it does, it puts a crimp in it and flattens it down. That way you can lay the metal over top of it, and it lays flush with that. Of course, the only problem here with this car is there's at least in places 1/8 to 1/4 inch thick of Bondo over top the metal, which I don't know why. I see where it was wrecked up in here, a few dents, but from the inside, but back on this back side, back through here, there isn't anything wrong with it. I don't know. I guess I got Bondo happy. But so it's going to take a lot of air filing to get down what they put on off and bring down to the metal, because you can only match level the metal to metal. So okay, I've made me a little piece of sheet metal here to go in to go in the hole right here. It'll kind of fit in there, and then I'll put a piece of metal down the edge for the inside of the fender well. Of course, I've still got to cut this piece out. It's just generally, I just generally just kind of bend it and trace it off the quarter panel patch that I'm going to put in. So it's a start. We'll see where it goes from here. Okay, now I have the patch panel all dressed up and ready to go. I can remove the stickers once it's all welded in place. But as you can see, I've used my little air punch and punched little holes all the way through to plug weld it to the seam that it's supposed to was originally spot welded, probably by a robot or a machine that actually put spot welds. And I have a spot welder, but this is just a lot quicker and easier to use the MIG welder and just weld through these holes, which they call plug welding. So hopefully the next video will be this thing sitting on the car. Okay, now the patch panel is what you call stitch or spot welded in. I've just gone ever so often. I didn't go straight in a row. I kind of spread it around to keep the heat dissipated so it didn't start warping the metal. But I started over on this side right above the wheel there and lined it up with that body line, and then come back here, and as you can see, I don't know if you can see it or not, but with a file I put a mark here, put a mark here, so that I could see the body lines and line them up. Unfortunately, I tried that here. There is no body line to line up because, you know, some retard didn't know how to work body filler and covered the whole body panel and destroyed that body line, but that's another story. Anyhow, it's patched or spotted in, so now I'll have to go and do stitch welding, and that's where I'll just put a spot weld in between each spot weld, just kind of like a bzz, 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 a little bit over each top, just maybe about 50% over each one until it meets the other one, and kind of spread it around and keep the heat down from any one spot to keep any of the metal from warping. But it's going to take a little bit more time, and I'll show you the end result when I get it all welded in. I don't know, I'm about halfway through stitch welding. I've gone through and put little spot welds in between spot welds, and the reason I did that is I bounced from like here, then here, and come back, and here and there, and then went over there to keep the heat down. One, this whole side is filled with body filler, and if I heat it up too hot, it's going to either catch on fire or it's going to pop out and crack, and I don't want to do all that. So I've been just stitch welding as best I can, keeping the heat down. So I'm going to go back with a grinder and kind of dress this down a little bit, and then go back in and then finish out the stitch welding in between the spot welds. Basically, it's just stitch welding, just spot welding in between spot welds, and just connecting the dots and overlapping each little spot weld until you pretty much got a solid weld. So I'm going to do that, and then dress it back down, and then put some fiberglass in on over all the seams. I've already done all my plug welding up inside. I'm not sure if the camera's picking it up. Where I punched my little holes, I put spot welded to the metal that I created and put back in there. Even on the bottom, I've plug welded. See, there we go. I've completed my stitch welding, connected all the dots to the dots, overlapped all the welds to the welds, so it looks like pretty much a solid weld. I forgot to videotape that part, but pretty much what you saw is what I was doing. And now I've actually applied a coat of fiberglass to the seams after I, of course, wire brushed and prepped up the welds. But it laid in there pretty nice, and from this point on I'll have to air file pretty much that existing body filler and try to recreate the body line that's been destroyed by all the Bondo that they put in it previously. But this is how you put a patch panel in a quarter panel. It's made of Bondo.